Hello everyone. I'm back with a new topic of the same chapter, that is the three orders. I will try to at least cover up 4 topics if the video is not that lengthy. Otherwise, I'll cut it short to almost 2 to 3 videos or topics only. So let us start with this topic, new agricultural technology. So from the topic itself, we could understand that they are talking about some kind of changes that was brought in the agricultural technology during the period. That means the 3 orders who were here. So basically, what kind of changes were brought, what kind of equipments were used, what sort of ideas, strategies were used, we are going to study in this part. So before that, let us take down a question. Examine the technological changes that occurred in Europe by 11th century. Full stop. Also discuss the effects of these changes. So from the question we could understand that we have to try to find out what are the technological changes that really occurred in Europe by the 11th century. I hope you all remember what were the equipments, what were the technology that they used before 11th century. So first of all, when we look, we came to know that by 11th century it was very evident that there were some several technological changes occurred. The first important thing was a wooden plow. That means before 11th century, these people, that means the people of Europe or the farmers, were using wooden plow. And this wooden plow could not dig or could not till the land very deep. So they have replaced this wooden plow with the help of a iron tip plow. When you say iron tip plow, means the plow is made of wood only, but the tip has got iron. And because it is iron and because it is very sharp or very heavy, it really digs deep inside, and then it can till the land, and the new nutrients can be brought out from the land or from the soil. Then this is the first change. The second change was the use of the mold boards. Whenever the farmer tilled the land, the soil pieces do not come out in the regular or the even sizes. The sizes sometimes are very big. That means it will have a huge or big chunk of soil, and then it has to be broken by hand. But after which, when we say technological changes, they started using mold boards. Now these mold boards are basically drawn or withdrawn by the animals which they use for plowing. It will be tied to them or tied to the body of the animal, and the animal will pull. The farmer would basically stand on the mold boards, and these mold boards will be attached with with a rope, and this rope will be tied on the body or the neck, or there will be one kind of harness so that the animal can pull. And when it is pulled, the soil or the chunks of the soil is or will be broken into equal pieces. So that was one of the good thing. And they could use the topsoil, or the topsoil will be evenly used up or properly turned into a better cultivating, or it becomes very easy for them to cultivate out here. So this makes the nutrients of the soil to be utilized in a better way. Now the second point is this, that the harnessing. When we talk about harness, now before this 11th century, the harness was basically tied on the body of the animal, that means below the neck. And whenever it is tied, the animal cannot give 100% of it. So they brought up one idea. Now they brought up one kind of change. Instead of tying, now they have some kind of harness which is kept on the neck. Now when it is kept on the neck, the shoulder blade and the neck, it has got some kind of bone which does not allow the harness to move down. So the animal gets more power, means it can exert more power, so that it can pull the heaviest loads, or it can even dig the soil quite faster. So now they started using a well-designed harness. Then another thing is that the horses used to suffer, or their leg used to decay. That means the hooves of the foot of the horses used to decay because there was no protection. But one example, or one simple thing that they found out was a horseshoe. And after the invention of the horseshoe, or when they discovered this horseshoe, it was nailed to the hooves of the horses, and that prevented the horses from any kind of foot decay. So this was one good invention, so that the animal could perform its duty for a more time, we can say. Then besides this, they need lots of energy for doing their works. That means to dig or to grind, or for any kind of services, they need some energy, like human energy, right? A human being will keep on rotating a wheel so that he can grind the seeds and all. And then the man becomes tired, so he could not perform it better way. But now they have one solution for this. They started using wind and water energy for agriculture. That means more water power and wind power mills were set up all over Europe, and these things were used from milling corns and pressing grapes. Now instead of human power, now this windmills were used. Now I guess you all know what is a windmill. And then water mill, right? Just like windmill, a windmill depends on the movement of the wind. That means the faster the wind blows, the faster the blade will be rotating, and that rotating fan turns or generates some kind of power. Same like that, when you talk about a water mill, it is also same. That means they will look for a river which is flowing, and on that river they'll keep some kind of propeller type, so that the water keeps on hitting the propeller, and the propeller will keep on rotating, and this rotating thing will turn or will generate some kind of power. And all these powers were used for milling corn and pressing grapes. So most of the people, they started using all this thing. Then another change that came is the use of land. So remember, in the between 5th and 10th century, they used to divide the land into two parts, and they leave one part without planting, and other part they will just use it. But here they had a different strategy. Here what happened is that they also had the same strategy, that means dividing the land, but they divide the land into three parts. After dividing it into three parts, that means they will plant, or they will use only two parts of the field for planting. Now here what happened is that the farmer would basically break out the holdings into three fields. They could plant one with wheat or rye in autumn for human consumption. The second could be used for for raising, or for peas or beans or lentils, means this dal and all we say. So all these things means in one part for personal use, other part they will use all this for humans as well as animals. That means peas, beans, lentils, then gram, oats, barley. These are all not only for human beings but also for animals. So you see, in the previous style they just use half of the land for cultivating one crop, but here they divide the land into three parts. They cultivate two parts of the land with two different types of crops, and they leave one land completely fallow. Now each year what do is they rotate the use of this three field. As an example, when I say rotate, this year they will be using 1 and 2 only, 3 is fallow. Next year they will leave number 1, they will use 2 and 3, and in that way it continues. So that made the rotating of the crop much better, plus rotation of the land also was much easier, and the outcome was much better. Then with this improvement, there were almost an immediate increase in the amount of food production from each land. Now the availability of food became double, means now people started to get more. Before they could get only less amount of food. That means how much was that? Maybe some, like what, maybe 20 bags or 30 bags. Now it doubled. So what we are discussing now is exactly the effects. Okay, effects of technological changes. First of all, the crops double, and then the greater use of plants like peas, beans, means what? Protein, okay, vegetable proteins in diet. That means average European could eat better food or better vegetables, and then better source of fodder was also available for animals. And because everything was better, that means they could had a better health. Now cultivators, they started having more opportunities because now they had different types of crops. Now the crops are double. They can do whatever type of business they want, selling, buying, whatever it is. Now they can produce more food from less land, because well planned or well structured ideas were being used now, right? Then the average size of the peasant farm shrank, means it became small, from 100 acres to 20 to 30 acres by 13th century. Now because of this, now holdings were very smaller and was more efficiently cultivated, because if the lands are too big, it will be difficult for them to cultivate, because big land means you have to cultivate or you have to dig it. Now only digging may take a very long time, because the land will be too big, too huge. But now when the land is becoming small, 20 to 30 acres from 100, that means now they are holding up a small land which can be efficiently cultivated, and amount of labor which was needed was reduced. Now this gave peasants more time for other activities. Now they don't need to waste throughout the day on the field. Then some of these technologies changes also cost a lot of money, right? It was good one way that it was it was coming up, but one thing that happened was that it cost a lot of money. Now peasants did not have enough money to set up the water mills and windmills. Therefore the initiative was taken by lords, saying that peasants should be given some kind of chances. Now but the peasants were unable to take all the initiatives in many things, such as extending arable land, means extending the land which can be cultivated. They also switched to 3-field rotation of crops, means from one crop, if this year they are planting rye and lentil, next year they will not plant rye and lentil, next year they will jump to some other crops. And set small forges and smithies in the villages. Means when I say forges, means what? These are the areas where they will burn the iron, they will heat the iron, they will turn this iron into some kind of shape so that it can be used for cultivation, or weapons or instruments or tools can be made. Now where iron tip plows or horse shoes were made and repaired cheaply. So all these were the effects of the cultivation. That means the technological changes that occurred. So we have just finished the effects of technological changes. So now we are on page number 144, paragraph number 3, as you can see, from the 11th century. Now for this paragraph you take down a question. The question is, what are the changes that was brought or that can be seen in feudal bonds? So here we will study about some kind of changes that can be seen in the feudal bond. So here we'll see what was the actual cause, or what kind of things that really came up as a difference of or as there is some kind of changes in the bonding and all. So let's see. From the 11th century, the personal bonds that had been very important for the feudal or for the feudal system was weakened, and the reason because of this was the economic transactions, and this economic transaction was becoming more and more. That means a money based transaction was becoming more. For the lords, it was easy, it was convenient, because they can ask rent in cash. They don't need any services, right? Whatever they need, they say that we need money, we don't need your service. Previously, before this cash system, if the lord needs something, he will ask someone, you have to pay me this much, since you don't have money, you work under me for 10 days. That was done. But now it is totally different. For the lord, if he needs money, he will just say, give me cash. If it is not there, some kind of different things were asked, but not services. Cultivators were selling their crops for money. Now these cultivators, they don't need to exchange goods for goods, or goods for money, or just a different thing, to traders. Now these traders would then take such goods to be sold in towns. Now see, this was a time when there was no cash system. Now during this era, one good seller, that means a farmer or the cultivator, would sell his goods to one of the service provider or the trader. Now from the trader, this cultivator gets something. That means what he needs, he gets it. It was like barter system. But after this cash system came up, now the cultivator could sell directly to the customers. Cultivators could sell directly to the traders. Now he don't need to worry like what I have to get, what I have to buy. What he needs is cash only. So that became good thing for them. And then the increasing use of money began to influence prices, which became higher. And as it became higher, because people, they started using money, and when people started using money, now when they exchange goods, there was not even, means we are talking just before cash, when this barter system was there, they never care or compare that I am buying one piece of cloth for one sack of rice, or one box of anything, maybe vegetables, or maybe this, means they'll just exchange it. But now, since the cash came, now they need to just see like who can buy. They don't need to worry like what I can exchange for it. Okay, so that's why what happened, the prices went up. Now they said, for this you have to pay 10 piece of gold coin. So you have to pay 10 piece of gold coin. Either you like it or don't like it. If you need it, take it. If you don't need, leave. Someone else will buy. So in that way, the increasing use of money began to influence prices, and because of that, price of the commodities went up. And when the price of the commodities went up, there were poor harvest. Okay, when there was poor harvest, the commodities went up, the price of commodity. Now you see, a farmer does not depend only on his harvest. A farmer is growing some kind of crops, and this crops may be rice. So with rice he need to buy something else. Okay, oil, these, that. So now when he goes to buy some oil, when he goes to buy some different stuffs, he finds that those things are very much costly, and he could not buy it, because for himself, that means for the farmer, his crop was a failure, or it did not turn up to be that profitable, so he does not have money. When there was this type of instances, so people could not buy whatever they need. So an example was or can be seen that in or between 1270s to 1320s, there was an incident of agriculture price which doubled. Okay, which doubled. That means it did not just go up from 1 rupee to 1.5 and like that, but in 1270 it was 1 rupee, then in 1271 it went to 2 rupees, 3 rupees. So by 1320 they could find that the things were becoming costlier than what they used to buy long time back. So this was the changes, or this was the cause of changes in feudal bonds. Let us now move on to our new topic. It's a fourth order, new towns and townspeople. Remember, we are talking about a chapter which is known as the three orders. But what is this fourth order? So this fourth order developed after this changes came in the European society. So for this you can just take down a question. The question is, what were the effects of expansion of agriculture in medieval Europe, or it can be medieval period? So first of all, when we see that expansion in agriculture was accompanied by growth in three different areas: population, trade and towns. So if somebody asks you what is the reason for expansion, or what is the reason for population, trade and towns to grow up, you can just say it is because of the agriculture which expanded. Now you can see that from 42 million in 1000, that means in the year 1000, Europe's population reached 62 million in 1200s and 73 million in 1300. So from this figure or stats we came to know that there was a rise in population. Now why there was a rise in population? Because there were better lifespan. Now they got better food, and better food means better nutrients, better way of living. And because of this better way of living, death rate became low, and because death rate became low, the number of people who were born, it continued, but people were dying less. So in that way you can see Europeans could expect to live 10 years longer than in the 8th century. So women and girls had shorter lifespan compared to men because they ate better food. That means girls and women ate little less, or the better food they did not get it, but women and girls, they eat little bit the food which is not up to the mark. Or we can say boys or men, they used to eat better food, and whatever is left, whatever is come the secondary, that is given to the ladies. So in that way the male could survive longer than the female. Then the towns of the Roman Empire had become deserted. Now why it became deserted? If people are growing, if people are becoming healthy, then they should not leave these areas. But the empire began to desert it. Deserted means people started leaving the empire. Okay, they are moving away from the Roman Empire, and as they move, it was ruined. Then after that, the 11th century, agriculture increased and became able to sustain higher levels of population. Towns begins to grow, and now peasants had surplus grain to sell, and that needed a place where to buy and sell. That means a market was necessary. So for buying tools, for buying clothes, all these things were necessary. Now what we can focus is this, that on or by 11th century, agriculture increased, and because of this agriculture, life can be sustained, and because life can be sustained, population was more. Because population was more, towns began to grow from one place to another. Now peasants, they started to get surplus commodities. Now this surplus commodities, you need to sell it, and for selling you need a market. So, and for all these things, now these are the areas where people buy, sell whatever they need. Okay, now either they buy clothes or sell tools or different things, because they need a market to sell all the surplus things. Now because of this demand, that means the farmers have to sell something, suddenly there was a growth of fair, F-A-I-R, means local fair and all. We used to say in Hindi, we used to say Mela. And small marketing centers gradually started, and this area, wherever the market was set up, wherever the periodic Mela used to take place, people start to settle around that area, because everyone wants to live in those areas where market can be nearby. So for them now, instead of living in the Roman Empire, they found that living nearby the market is much better than going and living away from the market. So they started to live near a market, and they turned it into a town square. The churches were made, roads were built, then merchants built shops and homes, offices came up in this area where market was there. So in that way you can see a new town. Wherever shops, wherever the small markets are set up, people start to grow that area or in that area. So in that way new towns emerge from that areas. So in other words, towns grew around large castles, bishops, estates, or large churches. So we can come into one conclusion that whenever towns grew either near the castles or near the bishop's area or near the estates or church or markets. That is what we are, or that was the effect of agriculture on medieval period. That means people started moving from one place to another. In towns, instead of services, that means people had to pay tax, right? So now the people have to go for some kind of services, saying like you need to pay some money. If you don't have this money, you have to pay, or you have to do some services. Or in the olden days, because the king have to be given some kind of, the king is protecting the people, the citizens, so the citizen have to do something for the king. So since they don't have this money system, so they cannot give anything. Whatever they give, suppose now if they give a bag full of rice, the king used to consider that it is too less. So in that way, what they used to do in the past days was that they used to provide their services. But now this providing services was totally stopped. Instead of providing services, they start to pay tax to the lords, and this tax were paid because the land belongs to the lord, and this land is a place where towns are standing. So if I am running a business in a town, I have to pay the tax for that land, and this land belongs to the lord, so I have to pay a tax to the lord. Now towns started to offer the prospect of services, means people, they can get some kind of jobs, paid work. So the farmers who were working in the fields and all, they started to find that living in towns and villages is a very different thing. If you live in a village, you have to do all the hard work, where you might be paid or you may get paid if the outcome is good, if the agriculture is good, if the production is good. But if you are living in a town, you will get short some kind of income if you do some kind of work. So paid work and freedom from the lord's control. So they find that if we go to these towns, we don't need to worry about that we are to work under the lord. So they started to move towards these towns and started living there. Once again, people started moving from the empire, that means lord's area, towards towns and the urban areas, so that they can become free from the king's hand. Now they started feeling that if you go to the town, you will be free. So it is written that town air makes free. Now what does it mean? It means what? For the farmers, if they are in villages, they have to work for the lord and they are never free. After working so hard, whatever production is there, this production does not go to the farmer, it goes directly to the king or the lord. So that is why the term is used, that town's air makes free. Means what? If you move towards the town, leave your village, go to the town, in the town there is no lord. What you need to do is work for someone or work under someone, do some work where you will be paid, and thus they don't need to worry. Many serfs carving to free ran away and hid in town. See, the serfs also, they started to run away. All these serfs, they could stay for 1 year, and one day without his lords discovering him, he could become a free man. That means they live their whole life with the master. But whenever they get time, they run away, because they know that if I move away from this lord's area and if I reach the town, I can survive by doing some works for which I will be paid, because this town now needs many people. In the town you need to carry goods. The owner of the shops cannot carry goods from one place to another, so they need a goods carrier. So who can carry? A man can carry on his back, or maybe using animals, for which he will be paid. So thus they are living there. So they had a target that yes, we can go there. Many people in towns were free peasants who had or escaped serfs who provided unskilled labor. When you say unskilled labor, means for this you don't need any kind of skill. Okay, you are not a mason, you are not a carpenter. These are all skilled labors. But when you say unskilled labor, means what? Some kind of helper. Okay, like carrying things from one area to another area, lifting or running with things from one shop to another shop, just like, you know, delivery. So for delivery you don't need any kind of skill. So that is what they targeted. Shopkeepers, merchants, they became numerous. Now later there was need for individuals who were skilled. Now slowly and slowly there was a demand for skilled laborers, like bankers were needed, lawyers were needed. And bigger towns means bigger population, and bigger population means this population, they form one order, and that order was known as the fourth order.